It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 33 of the Trademate Sports Betting Podcast. Today we're going back to basics, back to the preview of EPL Game Week 36. Once again, we've got a bit of a substitution here, but we've gone like for like, which is good. Jonas has left us sadly, but George, mate, you're still here.
Still here, holding the fort down. You know it is. But yeah, looking forward to another episode. Should be good fun.
Yes, mate, reliable as ever. George Gamble back, the card betting guru, but he's got more than that for us in terms of stats today. And we are welcoming a new guest on today. He has been on the podcast before. His name's Harout Massoyan. He's a pro sports bettor, but he will be subbing in for Jonas, maybe on a more permanent basis too, because I don't know, maybe Jonas is probably just sick of me, to be honest. But Harout, mate, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, mate, anytime. You'll get sick of me soon, probably too. But that's all right. Harout's, if you haven't listened to our podcast with Harout yet, I'd go and listen to that. I'm sure he can tell you more about what he's doing at the moment, but I'd love to kick things off because Harout's, he's been all over Twitter this weekend with the UFC and his bet on Usman versus Masvidal, and I'd love to hear, probably first up, hear that story that he's just told us.
Yeah, I was pretty active yesterday betting UFC. It was a pretty big card. So what happened was when the line first came out, I'm like, oh, it's like such a good price on Usman because I felt like he should be favored by a lot more than he actually was. But I placed a few bets early, and then I was like, oh, whoa, the market's coming against me. So I stopped right there because I was like just using the perception of a sharp and saying if the public's going to drive the price low, I'm just going to wait until closer to the start of the match to be able to get better prices on Usman and then build positions by trading both sides if I can get also a good price on Masvidal, so I can just keep offsetting good numbers and build a good position. And I was fortunate on the day of the match, there was a lot of volatility in the marketplace, and I was just able to maybe get six figures on a match traded. I was betting like 70, 80K on Usman before laying off some of the risk. So it was nice to be able to do that. I think it was one of my highest positions traded ever in my sports betting career. And I think Usman closed that close to like 1.37, 1.36, and I ended up getting like 1.61 on him for just about like 15K, and the result ended well, obviously, and it was a pretty big win for me.
Yeah, regardless of result, that is like an incredible amount of value taken. It makes my €50 live bet on Usman at 135 look like just the most pitiful piece of betting ever. But that was after, I couldn't believe, I was talking to you about that, Harout, when that was going on, and I was like, I couldn't believe that I got 135, and that was after 2 rounds.
Yeah, it was still pretty good at that. Yeah, still pretty good. I if anyone wants to go see like how I traded that, I have all the inputs on a spreadsheet that I took a screenshot of, and it's on one of my recent tweets from Saturday. So if you guys want to go take a look, or if you have questions on how I did that just to kind of get insight on trading, you guys are more than welcome to ask me.
Yeah, no, I'd definitely go and check that out if I was anyone out there. It's fascinating stuff. It's great, the amount of information both of you put out, but especially from a pro sports bettor's perspective, it's incredible. All right, fellas, we'll kick it off. Football quiz question of the week. We'll go with the theme of the games that are coming up. So when was the last time Arsenal beat Liverpool in the EPL? And because I'm so bad with multiple choice, I'm not going to give you any options this week. I've given up.
I think that's probably for the best, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I started writing out years in a row, and I was like, I'm doing the same fucking thing again. I can't believe it. I'm putting the answer as the third option. It's just, yeah. I'm not made to be a quiz master.
It's all right. It's a work in progress, mate.
Yeah, I'll get there one day. The most exciting part of doing this podcast at this time is that Manchester City's decision is going to come down in actually 10 minutes. But maybe we'll get to it at the end of the podcast, just in case it's bad news for George. Because if they do get a suspension, then I don't really rate George's chances of getting any valuable information out there. He'll probably just leave the podcast. So maybe we'll leave that till the end.
Oh no! Are we discussing it now, or are we going to discuss the whole thing at the end? Because I don't want to do a rant now, and then have nothing to speak about at the end.
I don't know. How do you feel about it now, mate? 10 minutes before, you nervous?
Yeah, I'm nervous, but at the same time, it's annoying simply because, regardless of what happens, it's going to be, if we win, everyone's going to say, "Yeah, but you've just given him a backhander, like to get out of it because you've blatantly been cheating." So, well, no. But if we obviously get found, innocent, obviously it's fine, but then you get found guilty, well, you cheated as well. But surely, if we were going to throw a backhander, we'd have just done it to UEFA and avoided all this in the first place. Like, I don't see how that's a valid thing. But you know what? Like I said, our owners always said, basis on facts. If it's based on facts, we'll be fine, because they obtained information which they miscued illegally anyway from obviously I think it was Der Spiegel in Germany. It was taken out of context, but. Also, are UEFA really the most well, do they have any sense of integrity anyway? Because PSG, in the same position as us as a club, pretty much. They're a member of their board has gone on to the board of UEFA, and they've kind of got into bed, and then he's been found guilty of bribery. But obviously, we've just decided we don't want to conform to that, and we're like, well, no, we're not paying for something that we've not done anything wrong. I could talk forever about it, but like what we're getting had a go at, and what they're trying to find us guilty of is overinflated sponsorship fees from, for example, Etihad, that sort of thing. But it's like, where does the line stop? Because we're trying to get into that elite and become part of the established elite. Obviously, UEFA don't really want that. But for example, I think it's Bayern Munich's chairman. He's also on the board. I'm not sure if it's Audi or something like that. And funnily enough, they are sponsored by that same company. So how is it any? How's it any different, really, using obviously outside influence to gain money for your club? It's apparently, all of our funds that have been put into the club have been declared, has been had a look at by independent adjudicators, investors, and everything's obviously all above board. So it is going to be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I'm still nervous, even though I think my club is honest, it's sound, we're going to be fine. If it's not. Yeah, I'm going to be. I reckon I'm going to be MIA for at least a couple of months.
Oh well, we'll see what happens, mate. But I can see that you certainly have a few opinions on that. But it'll be very exciting to get your live reaction to that, or maybe you'll sneakily look halfway through the podcast without telling us. Your mood will suddenly change.
I'm going to become a meme, aren't I? I'm just going to be. It's just that.
All right, we'll kick off with some initial questions for you guys before we go into the preview of the upcoming round. I wanted to ask Harout just a general question. These games are like 2 days away, but what are we talking about? 36 hours to 4 days away. How early before a game are you starting to look at all the markets and analysing, what to make a play at?
Well, to me, it's always important to monitor the market as much as you can. I spend a lot of time doing that, just because there's always information coming into the marketplace, and it can cause a drastic change in the odds at any given point in time. Especially now, because a lot of the games that are being played are like the next games that's coming up right after is so heavily dependent on how the season's going to end out in terms of standings and stuff. So in the middle of games, when, like, let's just say, for example, today Aston Villa was playing, like, you can, when teams are playing their previous game before the next one's about to start, there's already movement for the next game just based on their form in that game. So when you're watching the marketplace, you just want to be able to see and understand what's a real move, what's not, where are they capturing inefficiencies. When a line is first being released, it's a good time to be looking at it, because that's when a lot of sharps are coming in and taking advantage of the early inefficiencies. Kind of like how they did with Chelsea when the line first came out. It opened up at around like minus 500 American odds, and now they've pumped it up to like minus 700 because obviously Chelsea should be a walk in the park for them in this one, and obviously they do need the points to make sure they secure their seating up top.
Yeah, and then would you ever? How often would you say that you trade not on the game day? So if there's a game on Monday, let's just say, like how often would you make a play either the day before or earlier than that?
It depends, because obviously when you bet something too early and your edge against the market is not big enough, you run into the scenario where it can come against you. So your read just has to be really well. You have to have good logical reasoning as to why this trend on the price will continue to go that way. And if you have that, more often than not, the initial move is generally the right move. That's the way the market will trend more often than not. But you just have to kind of be smart about how you're doing it. You don't want to expose yourself too much. If you place a bet, you want to start off small, take up any value bets you can, and then kind of just build on that. Whereas if you kind of put all your eggs in one basket on a play too early, it's going to be so hard to reverse out of that in case information comes out and it's not in your favor.
Yeah, that makes sense. And George, mate, ever since we haven't talked probably in about 2 or 3 weeks, is there anything you've noticed trends-wise in the EPL with cards?
To be perfectly honest, I think it's all over the place. I mean, there's a lot of variance involved, but I think there was one week where there was very, very few cards, if any at all. Sometimes a lot more often than not, the line is set at around sort of 3.5 for a number of cards in a game, and it's not often been hit since the restart in the Premier League. But at the same time, that does mean there is value, because occasionally you'll get the odd one or two that there's a lot, and the ref gets very card happy. So I've noticed a couple of times the line has been, either very high, in which case the unders have always paid off. But alternatively, I think for example, at the weekend, Liverpool against Burnley, just Liverpool to get 2 cards was 9-2, which was just an outrageous price considering it's Burnley, who everyone knows what Burnley are like and the way they play football.
Yeah.
And Liverpool have seen a fair number of cards since the restart. I wouldn't say a fair number, but more than they would tend to, say beforehand, when they were playing to obviously have that motivation of wanting to win the title. But since winning it, they've got a fair few, and so that price was just insane, to be honest. But it
what
does
that
fluctuate.
Correlate to?
I'm trying to work out 9-2. So if you were to put,
It's not 450, is it? Or 3?
Because if you were to put £20 on it, it's 110 back. So I'm trying to work. I can get the odds calculator up for you.
9-2, 450.
Yeah,
450. Okay.
It's about 450. Yeah. So that was just an insane price for any team in the EPL to get 2 cards in a game, regardless of the home or away. That's an insane price. So I think the bookies are struggling with it in terms of finding the right price and finding the right line. So there's definitely kind of value there to be had if you can find, say, a line that's incorrectly been put in when you think it should be higher, whether you think it should be lower. It's just all about kind of getting the research in and thinking, well, they've seen it that many times, this has hit that many times, because obviously that's all you can go on. And trying to find the right line that you think it should be and judge it against what they've put it in, and that's how you can ascertain whether it's value or not.
Yeah, okay, no, that's very interesting, mate. All right, we'll kick off the preview, fellas. Tuesday, we've only got the one game, so it's Chelsea-Norwich, as Haru alluded to before. Chelsea very short, like you said. I guess minus 700 kind of correlates to 1.14, which is what Pinnacle is at the moment. So incredibly short. They just came off a loss, if I'm not mistaken. Chelsea, they just got battered by Sheffield United 3-0.
Turned over.
Yeah, which is crazy stuff. But George, mate, anything here at all?
In terms of cards, it's been quite difficult, because when you sort of look at the stats, Norwich, when they've been away at teams in the top half, they've only seen 2+ in 50% of those games. So it's quite inconsistent. Chelsea as well, they've seen 2+ at home to teams in the bottom half 5 out of 9 times. I don't think there's too much. Obviously, Norwich have been confirmed down. Chelsea obviously trying to secure Champions League football. It's going to be one-way traffic in my book. Norwich, they've not won away since November last year, and that was away at Everton. I think they've lost 7 out of 8 away to the top half, and that includes a draw against Leicester. So they've not won at all. Conceded in 7 out of 8 of those games. Norwich have as well. So, as Harout said earlier, Chelsea, it should be a walk in the park for Chelsea. This one, I'd be staggered if there was anything other than a Chelsea win. But for me, in terms of cards, I just think with only one team having the initiative and with motivation, it's probably not one I'd really look to play, because I just don't. Only one team's fighting for anything, so it's probably one that I'd avoid on that.
And you, Harout, is there anything, you talked a bit about the markets before, but is there any room for a play there at 114?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the market right now. I feel like the way it's moved since it's opened, it is going to look like it's going to be one-way traffic. There's going to be a market where even the public's going to look to get on this, so I just don't see it really being a two-way market unless it really becomes a number that sharps can't really refuse to play. And there's definitely potential for that, because we're already out at 2.5 at some bookmakers, but the 2 opened at like 1.9, and I think that's a sharp play. But who knows what we'll get closer to the start of the match. I just don't see any value sitting there on Chelsea closer to the start of the match, just because of the way it's already moved since the opener.
Yeah, no, it's hard to see much value there in Chelsea, and they're not really the most dominant team. I think they possibly, I think if Manchester United win tonight, they might, or is it Leicester? Leicester might drop out of the top 4, but they're certainly not been convincing lately. So 114 is hard price to be looking at right now.
I think if you played it early, if you played the 1.9 at opening price, I think that's a solid play. That's as good as you're gonna get on Chelsea from the opener to the close. You're not gonna get that anymore.
Yeah, no, good point. All right, we'll move over to Wednesday then, fellas, and there's a stack of games here. There's 4 games, and I think there's plenty of value to be had from my naked eye this morning. Newcastle versus Tottenham, Burnley versus Wolves, Man City versus Bournemouth, and feature game Arsenal versus Liverpool. We might as well start off with Arsenal versus Liverpool. George, mate, at some bookmakers there are still above evens at 202. 201 I've seen them, which I can't believe as an Arsenal fan. Mate, what are you seeing?
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you. It's kind of staggering that Liverpool, the side that they are, no offence against your beloved Arsenal, but
no,
they're worlds apart. So that price is just ridiculous. But in terms of kind of looking at cards and what have you, Arsenal are there sort of top of the disciplinary table, but that's kind of come down in recent weeks. They used to consistently pick up cards, where it's been something since Arteta's come in. Actually, they have kind of worked on. In particular, my favourite one used to be either one of Arsenal centre halves to pick up a card, so a player card bet, and more often than not that would come in just because Mustafi, and I think at the time it was Luiz, but yeah, no. In terms of kind of cards for this one though, in particular, when Liverpool have been playing away against teams, in the top half, their opposition's only seen 2+ in 2 out of 8, and they've only picked up 2+ in 3 out of 8. So you're naturally kind of inclined to pick the unders. But it is Arsenal. At any point they have got players that can just do something ridiculous and pick up a red or this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But I quite like. I don't always look at head-to-head stats because I don't think a lot of the time you can purely base a bet judged on head-to-heads because things change. There's a lot of variance in that. But Arsenal have scored at home in 7 out of 8 games to teams in the top half, whilst Liverpool have conceded in half of them away at teams in the top half. So, and in head-to-head, both teams have scored in the last 5 out of 5 in all competitions, and over 2.5 has landed in 4 out of 5 of their last meetings as well. I think there could be goals in this one. I'm not too sure about cards. There's too much at play. There's nothing there that says to me, I'm pretty certain that will come in. It would be more of a punt, and obviously that's the way I like to do things, really. But I do think there'll be goals in this one. So if I'd say both teams to score on over 2.5 would potentially be a solid bet, particularly with Arsenal playing at home. But if I was to have a play in this one, it would probably be from the goals rather than the cards perspective.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see all the odds on someone getting a red card. Like David Luiz is just notorious for getting a red card against big teams. Manchester City's the last example of that. And I think he got a red card against Chelsea too. Like when big teams, when he plays big teams, he almost becomes less reliable. He's just useless. But Harout, mate, are you seeing anything in the market here at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think on that day we're gonna find some good value. I actually just played Liverpool before we started the podcast at -half. I was getting $2. So I think that's a pretty good price. It's actually arbable. You can arb that at Pinnacle right now for $1, but I think that direction of market, based on the early read that I'm getting, I think that it's going to continue to trend that way. But the one move that's been very interesting to me, there's probably at least like 60-70 ticks on the price change on the Wolves. There's strong backing on the Wolves. We're seeing them open at a quarter at the price that it currently is for the half. It's the same price now. There's just been a lot of money on Wolves early on, and I can imagine that the price will even be higher closer to the day of the match. The only thing that's probably keeping that line tight for now is it's projected to be a low-scoring game, which would really be the only thing keeping Wolves from being able to position themselves on a lead in that game.
We might just take a pause there because I saw George celebrate very heavily, and I'm assuming you've had some good news, mate.
Well, yeah, so I looked at the time and I was like, oh no, I need to switch tabs here, and it might be for some news that I don't want to see. And then I looked and I had to double take it. But no, in bright, bold black writing with a yellow background, there for all to see, Man City's appeal has been upheld and they will play in the Champions League next season. Come on! You love to see it.
It's farcical. I mean, it'll be really funny if Manchester United now don't make the Champions League. But
be the icing on the cake. That would, I think. It'd make a good season even a little bit better.
Yeah. Oh well, mate. At least someone's going to be in a good mood for the rest of the podcast, eh?
Yeah, I might stick around now, Alex. If that's all right.
I mean, that's massive. That's massive, isn't it? I think most people predicted if they did get a ban, maybe it would just be reduced down to a year. But to get complete
exoneration, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. So, well done, George. Good work, mate. You worked hard for that one.
I was going to say all my hard work's paid off.
Yeah. But no, you were saying some really interesting things, Harout, before we had a rude interruption by George's celebration.
Sorry, Harout.
You were talking about the Wolves-Burnley game.
No, okay.
Which I thought was quite interesting because, I mean, Burnley, I was watching a bit of that Burnley-Liverpool game, and they're very astute. I mean, that was kind of a known thing going into that game, but I mean, the price on Burnley at $4.90. The Wolves haven't been convincing lately. Only that 3-0 win the other day has been kind of their turnaround. And there's also, you can get $3.35 for draw no bet. I was looking at. I don't know. I'd be slightly interested in Burnley here. Have you got any thoughts on that, George?
I'd be inclined to say similar to you, if I'm honest. It's purely a price play though. I mean, Burnley, as you said, defensively, they're very astute. Tarkowski has been a rock at the back. Ben Mee is always very consistent as well. And I think with Wolves, I mean, they do tend to struggle against those kind of sides in terms of breaking them down. So for me, a double chance bet or a draw no bet play, as you said, on Burnley purely for the price is worth it in general in my book. Wolves have had a fantastic result, but against a largely disjointed Everton side, so they haven't toppled anyone who's been performing extremely well throughout the season. And I think Wolves at times do sort of struggle to break, teams like Burnley down. Teams that work hard consistently throughout the 90, they do struggle. So purely for a price play, Burnley, double chance or even more of a draw no bet would definitely be a play.
Yeah, out of all the matches, that one has gotten the most amount of activity so far out of everything I've looked at. So it's quite interesting.
And you were saying the money was with Wolves.
Yeah, there's a lot of money back and forth, and then you see, like, I'm looking at the price points right now. Every time it comes down, there's like good resistance to push it back up, and there's backing on the Wolves right now, at least based on the current information available in the market.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. The other game I wanted to talk about was Newcastle versus Tottenham. This might be a very biased opinion just because I've only really watched Tottenham yesterday for the first time, but I'd be interested to see how much the Tottenham result yesterday has skewed their price, because Tottenham were incredibly unconvincing yesterday. And if I was saying to my mate as I was watching the game, I was like, if you were watching this game, you had no idea what the score was. If someone then said to you, Arsenal winning 3-0, you could buy that, because Tottenham are not a good team at the moment. And for Arsenal to lose yesterday was absolutely criminal. So I know Newcastle had a bad loss on the weekend, but before that they were in the best form they've been in all season. Are you seeing anything in the market here, Haru?
I'm pulling that one up right now. It doesn't look like there is. It stayed pretty stale. There isn't really much activity there, to be honest. It's the lowest in volume in terms of money matched compared to the Wolves and Burnley and Liverpool Arsenal match. Everything's pretty stale, honestly. No one's biting anything right now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Newcastle, I noticed before, we're at 3.4 draw no bet, which I think would be the play, because a Jose Mourinho side, they don't lose too often. Like, they do manage to snip out a draw at worst most of the time, I say that is. But George, anything stats-wise, cards-wise here?
The only thing I've kind of noticed really is that, particularly with these sides, there's not too much to play for. Spurs getting into Europe's a big ask. There's not many games to go. But just sort of looking at averages really. Spurs see more cards, really more cards away than any other side in the league. Compared to Newcastle at home, don't really see too many. I think Newcastle see an average of 1.82 yellow cards at home, where Spurs see an average of 2.24 away. And on the Asian handicaps, kind of just for most cards, a 0.0, what's 0.0 for Tottenham is even. So if they're level on cards at the end of the game, it's void. You get your money back. So I think Newcastle, in particular, I think they're going to want to do better obviously against Tottenham. And as you said, Tottenham were awful. They really were bad. But both teams were quite bad defensively. But yeah, and I do think Newcastle are going to get a result here. So I'd be inclined to say Tottenham on the Asian handicap for cards is just value. It's value considering the averages. They're underdogs in this particular market, which I think is priced wrong. So for me, in terms of price, in terms of the stats that are backing it up over the course of the season, Tottenham on a handicap for cards would potentially be a play there.
Yeah, that's very interesting. All right, and then we've also got Man City, Bournemouth on that game. Are you seeing anything in the market now, Haru? Because I'd be interested to see with that breaking news if people are moving either way on their upcoming game on Wednesday.
That's a good question. I'm gonna look that up real quick.
That's right.
See, like things like this, they really do influence the market, especially because the way the seasons come back, where like teams are playing like 3 days right after, like the game that they're playing, the previous match before their next one, plays such a more of a factor than it would in like a regular season schedule, where games are taking place the next week, because the way their form is, that momentum carries over so much sooner than it would in a regular season.
Yeah.
There's almost half of the break in between the matches, so information from the previous match plays such a bigger role, because the sports books are actually releasing the odds on the match while the current game is happening. Generally, they don't really do that in the regular season, but they're doing this right now to obviously get the money matched in time for the game to start.
Do you think that's an inefficiency, or do you think it's correct?
I think that it gives an opportunity for bettors to take advantage of an inefficiency that wouldn't exist in a regular season schedule, because there is a different factor in play here. Lines are being released before the entire game is even done. So there are certain instances where, a red card on a player being sent off when the line already being released on the next game plays such an important role. And you can take advantage of an inefficiency there. I've done it before.
Yeah, I mean, the most recent example would have been last night when Sionku got red carded for Leicester, and now I don't know how long he's unavailable for, but he'll be unavailable for their big game against Sheffield United, which is on Thursday.
He's out. It's for the rest of the season. They said they'll be without it for 3 games. They'll be without him now.
Wow,
that's what they said last night. So.
Well, there you go. Yeah. I mean, that's massive. And now we're talking about you have to make the top 4 to be in Champions League. So that's absolutely huge, because they look like the weakest team out of the Chelseas, the Manchester Uniteds, and Leicester. So that's big news. All right, we'll head over to Thursday, fellas. Everton versus Aston Villa, Leicester City, as I mentioned, versus Sheffield United, Southampton, Brighton, and United Palace. Just keep in mind, United still have a game to play tonight against Southampton. So the Southampton-Brighton game, as you were talking about, Haru, and this podcast will come out before Manchester United and Southampton's game tonight. So that's really interesting. People can, get an insight into what you've just said, and maybe make a play during the game tonight with Manchester United and Southampton with their upcoming fixtures on Thursday. I'll start with you, George, mate. Where do you want to take me to? Yeah.
I was just going to say, because I had a bit for the City-Bournemouth game, obviously still the night before going on to the Thursday matches, because the line when I looked was for over 2.5 cards, and I think that line, it could be potentially for a bit of value, because the odds were 5 to 6, which would imply a 54.5% implied probability. Whereas when you look at some of the games, so for example, Bournemouth, when they've been away at teams in the top half, that's landed 6 out of 9, compared to City's, it's landed 5 out of 8 against teams at home, against teams in the bottom half. So that's around 64.7%. So I think there's obviously quite a big gap there in terms of value. I definitely think that line could quite easily be hit, especially with the result that Bournemouth had. I know going away to City is a big ask, but they've got to do everything that they can. They're fighting for their lives to at least stand a chance. It probably won't happen, but you've got to fight, to give yourself that fighting chance. So I think we could be in for a good contest here. City have scored in 8 out of 8 against teams at home. We know how dominant they are at home. They've had a few slip-ups this season, but more often than not, they tend to put, they're the top scorers in the league. So they've scored 2+ goals against teams in the bottom half at home in 8 out of 8 games. So I think we could be in for an end-to-end game here. City seeing most of the possession, but we know what City are like. They do often lose the ball in silly areas and a suspect to the counter. So I think Bournemouth will be looking to use that. Solanke's obviously hit a bit of a mini purple patch for himself. It's typical. I said yesterday, I was like, they said, could this be the day that Solanke shows what he can do? I was like, of course it isn't. He's not scored for about 35 games for him. It's not going to happen. Lo and behold, what does he do? But yeah, so I think he'll be wanting to prove himself again for this one. So I think it could be an action-packed game. So I think the over 2.5 at 5 to 6 is value there. I think that those odds should be lower. But no, that's my... Just wanted to get that one in there before we moved on to Thursday.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
That's all right, no worries. In terms of Thursday, kind of looking at it, Villa, most fouled side in the league. I think Everton are going to be hurting a bit. obviously after the result that they had. So that one, if there's a free kick market open for that one, Villa free kicks is always a play. It is always a play. So for example, I think this weekend I had it of Villa over, to get 6 free kicks in the first half, but over 14 overall, and that was over evens, and I think they got about 19 in the end. And going away is more likely for that to happen. But Bet365, for example, who offer this market, are very kind of particular in which games they offer it to. So if that market opens on Villa against Everton, that'll be a play that I have, just because Jack Grealish, he's just on the floor every other second from being challenged or this, that and the other. So it's always a good bet to look out for. In terms of Leicester, don't get many cards at home whatsoever. In fact, they're ranked second bottom. Only Liverpool have seen less cards at home than Leicester this season. And Sheffield United, love an away card. John Egan, Basham, players like that, they're always going into the Bulldog as well. So I think a potential play for Sheffield United to see most cards there. I think I'd leave the other games just because it's quite inconsistent, particularly the United game. Some games, their opponents and themselves can pick up loads of cards. Other times there's one in the whole game. It fluctuates consistently. So I think my only 2 plays would be Villa free kicks if the market opens, and then a Sheffield United to see the most cards. Those would be my plays.
Brilliant insight, mate. Love it. Harout, mate, anything in the markets here? I know it's a few days away.
On the Aston Villa, there's actually been some good movement early on. That looks like actually some sharp action because they hit it a couple of times to drive the price up on Villa. Villa opened at like 2.09 at Pinnacle, and now they're sitting at like 1.85. So there was some hitting there after today's game. This is another example, the market was moving while the game was being played, just based on their form and just seeing these things happen while the marketplace is available to bet their following game. People are doing that, so there are inefficiencies sitting there, and I think this would be a good strategy for anybody to who's trading to look at that. I think you can find an edge there if you play accordingly, if you play to the real moves. But yeah, there's been some money on Villa. I am anticipating actually some money on the Manchester United total as well. There has been a little bit of a push there on the over 2.5. So I can easily see that one coming up to like minus 130, minus 135. It's sitting at like minus 118 right now at Pinnacle. But as far as everything else goes, there isn't really much activity on the other matches there.
Yeah, I mean, the striking thing that got me about this game day was Leicester Sheffield United, and I saw Sheffield United I'm looking at it now. They're at 4.35 on Marathon Bet. I know both teams have lots to play for. Sheffield United are very close to a Europa League spot. If not, they're probably already there at the moment. And then the same for Leicester. They're going for Champions League. I thought that seemed quite high, especially with Sionku now out.
Yeah, this was another one I forgot to mention. I had it in my notes here. There is definitely, again, same situation as the Villa one I just mentioned. There's been good support for Sheffield in the middle of the play when the game was going on and he got sent off. So there is definite inefficiency captured there. People bet it. That's a real move. It opened at 2.08, and now Sheffield United double chance is sitting at like 1.92. So there was movement there for sure, and that's a real move. That's a value bet if you got in during that information.
I'd say draw with Sheffield United would be a good bet, simply for the fact no teams draw more games away from home than Sheffield United. I think still winning away at Leicester, who've only lost 3 at home all season. I still think winning for Sheffield United could be a big ask. So to kind of cover that, even the draw of Sheffield United on 365, I'm not sure, it could be higher elsewhere. I haven't had a chance to look, but even at 4 to 5, I think that's a great price, considering the circumstances of both
this
sides.
Scenario here, if I can get a piece of information that I know is going to cause one-way action, it's a good idea to get in early. This is a perfect example of a position you want to start betting early, because you don't necessarily, as a bettor, you shouldn't really be afraid of worrying about something going against you, because if there's a 20% chance of something going against you, so what? The other 80% of the time it's going to go in your favor. So I think you should always be trying to build positions here, especially if you're looking to get a lot of money down like myself, because there comes a point in time where, like, if you wait too long to try to get your bet in, you're not going to get enough money down. If I wait until like the last 5 or 10 minutes, I'm only going to get a couple $100, where that's not ever going to be enough. So if you can get good piece of information and it's real information, take advantage of that, because you gotta trust your instincts and your reads, because that's where you capture the most inefficiencies. Instead of beating the closing line by 10 cents, you can beat it by 40-50.
Yeah, no, that's awesome insight, fellas.
Definitely.
I love that. All right, and we can also go through Friday's game, West Ham, Watford. Anything interesting here, George?
I think personally, even though the referee's Anthony Taylor, I think the line's too high for me. I think most places have got it at over 3.5 for cards, which I think is quite a lot. In terms of that line, I think it should be probably closer to. I think it should be closer to maybe 2.5, but I see why it's there, and the fact that it's such a big game down at the bottom. It's a huge game. You could argue that it's a winner takes all sort of match, in that, you know, they're both obviously down at the bottom, just outside the relegation zone. But I think, they're both on 34 points. Villa and Bournemouth are just behind them with 31 and 30. The winner, it's a springboard type game, isn't it, really? So it takes you away from all of that danger. With after that, it'll be just 2 games to go. But interestingly for me, I think the favour should be with West Ham. I just think they've got too much quality overall. They're obviously much better at home. But what interested me is that Watford this season, they're winless when they've gone away to other London clubs. They've drawn 1 and lost 2. And I think that could be kind of key. And I think West Ham have got their tails up at the moment, so I think it'll be a tough game for Watford. And Watford again, for the majority of the season, they were kind of either first or second in the disciplinary table. But they actually see more cards at home though, so I don't expect them to pick up too many here. So but they've seen 2+ away, still in 6 out of 8 away, it seems, in the lower half, whilst the opposition has seen in those games 2+ in 5 out of 8. In terms of the statistics, the only one that stands out is that West Ham have scored in all of their games at home against teams in the bottom half, and I can obviously see that one continuing here. In terms of cards, it's too difficult to say, because what you think should happen, stats obviously suggest one thing, but the odds are suggesting another. There's too much variance in it. There's too much difference in a lot of the things as well. So it's really difficult to pick out a bet on this one from the cards point of view. From goals and a result, I'd favour West Ham every day in the week over Watford. But from cards, I might kind of wait and see what happens in terms of this, because particularly with kind of team cards, for example, both of the lines are over 1.5 and they're both exactly the same price. So it's tough to decide who to favour. So I might kind of abstain from this one. I might not look at cards despite as a ref, because Anthony Taylor can hand up 4 one week and then 1 the next. He's a very difficult man to kind of pinpoint on what sort of mood he's in, depending on the day. But I might kind of wait in a bit further to the time, see if there's any little bits of news that come out from either club, that sort of thing. So you kind of get a feel for the attitudes. I know it's a must-win game, but you can kind of sometimes get a different feel of ways they're going to approach the game, whether they decide to be more aggressive, keep the ball, that sort of thing. So I might look out for something of that, and also keep an eye on that line as well, because I still think 3.5 could be quite high.
Okay. Haru, anything in the market, mate?
I pretty much agree with George. I have like all the games. This one has the least bit of price action so far, and that doesn't necessarily show a good sign of early inefficiencies. I mean, it's not too hard to price a game like this. So we are seeing just a tiny bit of money on West Ham, but it's like nothing that is like taking advantage of a major inefficiency. There is no major market inefficiency there. To me, based on reading the line and how I've seen other games open and the way they move early on and then how they end up closing, I think this one will pretty much stay the same. throughout the entire life of the line. But we'll see. I mean, the market's always subject to new information, so that can change at any time.
Yeah. All right, fellas. Great stuff from the EPL today. Obviously, there's other leagues going on all over Europe, especially. If you had to give me one of your best things that you can see out there at the moment, George, in terms of cards or just any kind of betting action, mate, what are you seeing?
It's difficult because since the restart, for example, I love Serie A. Serie A is like where I focus a lot of my work on. But they tend to release the referees either on the day or the day before. So although I can see, that fixture looks like it should be good, if you don't get a good referee, it can kind of obviously put you off the bet, and the prices can change as well because obviously there's so many different contributing factors toward what's a good bet. But no, so I'm going to be looking around because I've got to do a full preview as well because there's a full round of La Liga on Thursday, which should be good fun. But no, I'll be looking at, for example, young boys are at home to Servette in the Swiss League. I enjoy the Swiss League, so I'll be looking into that one. Initially, Sassuolo Juve looks like it could be a very good game with goals and cards. But again, I kind of want to wait to see the referees and do a bit more research into that. And we've got a full round of La Liga. But obviously, as you know, for Mark at We Love Betting, I'll be doing a big preview, going into detail of my favourite picks from all around Europe. So that'll be up during the week, which you can obviously read there once I've had a bit more time to kind of look into things and decide what's best there, really. But no, for now, it's just more of so far I'm earmarking that one because it could be a good game rather than knowing all the contributing factors to it.
Yeah, very cool, mate. And I know this is a very broad question for you, Haru, but is there anything liquidity-wise that you're seeing that's abnormal at the moment in all of European football?
I mean, no, not really. And even me, I don't really look too far ahead because, to be honest with you, I'm more of like a couple of days before trading kind of guy because I don't have the same liquidity in Vegas that I do in like I would in Europe. So a lot of what I'm looking at is usually a day or two before, and then I'm really sharp and ready to go on last minute information regarding lineups or weather or anything like that. I'm always on that. That's where I'm finding my biggest edges because if I bet too early, I can't really get a lot down right now because the Vegas books don't really offer until later. So I just I wait the night before or the 2 nights before, and I'll look ahead and see what's kind of moving on the totals, and then kind of gauge the direction of the market on that final push before the close.
All right. Awesome, mate. And then, fellas, if we just had to summarise, we've gone through basically every game throughout the EPL for game week 36. George, mate, give me a best bet of the midweek fixtures.
Ooh, best bet of the midweek fixtures. I'm going to go, I think, in the Arsenal-Liverpool game. Funny enough, cards my main bet, but it's not a cards-based bet, but still. I'm going to go with Liverpool-Arsenal. Again, I want to kind of double-check on the price. But I really like the look of over 2.5 and both teams to score. I do quite like that one. All right. So I'll have to check on the odds with that. But yeah, that'd be my bet.
All right, cool. And you, Haru, anything?
I have a couple on my radar. I probably, like I just said, I played Liverpool already, minus a half at $2. I think that's priced well. I feel like I can pivot out of that if I need to later. It's trending that way. I do like Sheffield double chance, the plus half. I think that's good as well. I'll probably build a few positions there, and I also do like the over 2.5 on Manchester United game. Some movement there. I feel like I can get good liquidity there closer to the start of the game.
Yep. All right. Cheers, fellas. That's awesome. And if you care too much about what I think from a pure punter's perspective, I would be looking at I think Liverpool at 202 is ridiculous, and Sheffield United. I thought at 195 I saw plus 0.5. I think there's a bit of value there too, but I'm more so very confident in that Liverpool pick. I won't be taking it myself though, because I'd rather see them get smashed. But with the faint hope that I have left as an Arsenal supporter, I would just love to emotionally just be on the Arsenal bandwagon, which is just horrible. But anyway. All right, fellas, before we get to the quiz answer for the week, where can we find you, George, as always?
So yeah, as always, you can find me on Twitter at @CGeorgeGamble, so you can find me, and also, as I've mentioned previously, do a lot of previews and best bets, obviously on We Love Betting as well. So if you want to find my picks for the week, that's where you can find that.
Cool. And you, Harout, mate?
Also on Twitter, you can find me Harout, Harout. I'm usually posting there on a daily basis. Whenever there are late action price movements, I'm always posting and giving valuable insight to help people get confirmation on their value plays and helping them understand why certain things are plays and why other things are not, and what kind of information is causing the movement in the markets. And my DMs are always open. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm there to help.
Yeah, honestly, everyone that's listening, it's two of the best Twitter accounts you can follow. I highly recommend following them. And if you want to follow myself, I'm at @AlexVella _ If you follow Trademate Sports, you'll probably find me somewhere around there. I've just started posting out some of the trades that I've been taking with Trademate every day. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask me about why I've picked this, why that, blah, 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 closing lines, pinnacle odds, all that kind of stuff, feel free to shout out. But fellas, once again, tremendous stuff. Quiz answer for the week. When was the last time Arsenal beat Liverpool in the EPL? Just because you're new to the podcast, Harout, I'll let you go first, mate. Oh, he's looking up the answer.
Man,
I'm like a
heavy underdog. I'm like a heavy underdog to get this one right. I don't know, man. I'm gonna take let me see. What was the question again?
When was the last time Arsenal beat Liverpool? And just if you don't know too much about these two teams, Liverpool are very good and Arsenal are very shit.
Not to put too fine a point on it.
No, Arsenal's not very shit. Don't Arsenal's not very shit. Come on, I'm not that stupid. I'll take a wild guess. I'll just probably maybe say in 2017.
Okay, not bad. All right, George.
I mean, I think one of the interesting stats is Arsenal haven't won away against the top six in general since Mason Greenwood was, 13 years old.
Yeah. They have beat teams at home, though.
Yeah, I know. That's it. So it's when they last beat Liverpool in the league, it was... Well, when I looked at the last 5 head-to-heads for my stats, I'm trying to recall what results were now. I don't think it was that recent. I'm going to go 2014.
Oh, God, it was the 2014-15 season, but it was in 2015.
Oh, no.
So you're both wrong. You're a bit closer, George, but it was 2015, and Arsenal beat Liverpool 4-1. I think Arsenal were at home. So it's been a tremendously long time, which I didn't. When I first thought about it, I thought it might have been like 2016, but it just shows Liverpool's dominance and Arsenal's capitulation in the last 5 or so years.
Those were the days, eh, Alex?
Those were the days. But everything's about to flip around, fellas. Give it 2 more days, and I'll bring in a new quiz question next week. How many hours has it been since Arsenal beat Liverpool?
All right, Harout, you've won this one. I'm not working that out.
That's a desperate.
Well, now that I know the answer, now that I know what year they won, I could just make a quick calculation in my head.
All right. It's tremendous stuff, fellas. Thanks for that. And thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure you do a quick rate and review of the podcast. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to our podcast. And if you're looking to implement some of the strategies we've talked about today, especially value betting ones, make sure you check out the Trademate Sports software, do a free week trial, see if you like it, and go from there. But fellas, thanks again.
Thank you very much again for having me. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, see you guys.